Welcome to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachele Brooke Smith.
And this is Emilio Palafox.
And we have a super special guest with us today.
Yes.
Tell the world how amazing this person
My
is.
soul brother over here, but also my brother in our metal men's community. Very happy to have this guy here. A special soul. His name is Kurtis Lee Thomas. He is a corporate mindfulness trainer and founder of Breathwork Detox. He's the #1 best-selling author of The World Is Yours, The Secrets Behind the Secret, and newly authored book, How to Thrive in the Age of Anxiety. He is also what I would say, and what a lot of people talk to him about, being a millennial whisperer, spiritual gangster, hope dealer, and a quote that I really love by G.W. Hardin, and I couldn't agree with this more. He says, "It is rare author who can take the complexity and beyond words aspect of spirituality and put it into simple English." So without further ado, welcome to the show, Kurtis Lee Thomas.
Thank you. You said super special guest. Now I definitely feel super today. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that. I'm very happy to be here.
As you should.
Yeah.
We're so excited to have you, and your book is just phenomenal. And, you talk in your book a lot about, waking up, right? You want people to live awake and waking up. And it's so interesting in today's world, right? That term, I think, gets thrown around, right? Even in like a fun sense of like, oh, he's so woke, right? I would love to hear in your words, what does that really mean? And how can people deeper understand what living awake or waking up actually is?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's many levels to awakening, and even people who are quote unquote woke, aren't fully awake. I read an amazing book by Napoleon Hill. It's actually my top 5, called Outwitting the Devil. Highly suggest everyone read that book. And in that book, he talks about something called hypnotic rhythm. And we get stuck in this hypnotic rhythm. Now, this is connected to, our subconscious and our habits. And how I would describe hypnotic rhythm is like, picture yourself, in a pool. We all did this when we were younger, right? You get in a pool with your friends and you start going in one direction, let's say clockwise, all around it. And you create this momentum, right? That current. And, once you get it going, you can kind of just float and go, right? But that direction sometimes can be the wrong direction. So you actually have to reverse it and go the opposite way. And it's very, very difficult, too. So we get caught in this hypnotic rhythm, in life. And sometimes that is, our habits. Sometimes it's our belief systems. So, becoming, awoke, or awake, it's really having ultimate self-realization and, continuously, realizing when an aspect of your life, isn't going in the right direction, or, you awaken to deeper levels of truth, because as your truth changes, right, your consciousness raises. And as your consciousness raises, your truth changes. So it's like it's constant. It's never, I'm fully woke. Even the Buddha, right? When the Buddha, when he became fully enlightened, now there's not too many people that reach that stage of enlightenment. And he'd go to kings and queens, and they're like, his energy, his presence, his knowledge, his wisdom. And they're like, who are you? Are you this? Are you that? Are you God? Are you this? Blah, blah, blah. And then the Buddha just kind of let everyone say all these things. And he said, I'm awake. I'm awake. Because we are living in this dream world. We really are. And the more, you do awaken, the more you realize it. And that was the biggest part of my own awakening was, my life did get turned upside down. Things got a little crazy when the constructs of that, reality in the matrix started to fall apart. But ultimately, my life never turned upside down. It got turned right side up. So we live in this upside down world. It's really weird. So it's a very powerful question right from the jump. It's very loaded. Hopefully I answered it.
Well, yeah, and we'll able to continually talk about this and dissect it, especially because you mentioned, there's different levels, and I definitely want to maybe even touch upon those. And I think for our listeners right now, when you read his book, and I hope you do, as well as everything that he's doing, I think, we're all in this together. I think that gets thrown around, but we truly are in more ways than you know. And So I think whether it's today's show and hopefully a part 2 and part 3, because I think it's this, what I would love for this show to be is really kind of this like shamanistic kind of guide with all of us here, everyone listening, because we truly are in this together. And I think when we start talking about the relationships with all of that, and as a reminder for everybody listening, you're tuning into Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, where the Relationship Renegades is really about not just a relationship like me and Rachel, but it's a relationship to ourselves, each other, the world around us, and to God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. And to really, we believe that when you tap into all those relationships, that you're really able to play full out and really experience a full life. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm really excited to dive deeper with Kurtis here with whether it's consciousness, whether it's the awakening. And so given what you said, I think it brings me to the next question of realities versus actualities. And so I'll say it like that. Everyone can say it differently, but how I think when you say we've all been maybe swimming in one current all the rest of our lives, and we're like, oh my gosh, like it's the wrong way or whatever it may be. It's almost kind of like, I guess people would say the unbecoming, right? People always want to become something, but it's almost like unbecoming all the things that we learned to really find out the truth. And so what were some, what do you think some people's maybe listening right now's realities, given the world we live in, given the government that's going on, given kind of the media, just there's so many things that we've been programmed with. What do you feel like are a lot of the masses realities and not like actualities, like actual truth? What would you say some of the realities are?
So I believe so here's the thing you have about truth. You have to respect people's truth, because it doesn't matter what they believe. If they believe it, then that's their truth. You can't, it's like if your fiance, something happens, and whether, it's justified or not, she says, hey, you hurt my feelings. It doesn't matter what you did, if it was, right or wrong, if you really did it or didn't. If you hurt her feelings were hurt.
Yeah.
Bottom line, that's her truth.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, and it's really acknowledging people's feelings, acknowledging their truth, because I don't know about you, but, at 5 years old, I believed in Santa Claus. That was my truth. Yeah. You couldn't tell me anything, so it's like, it's like there's truth. There's many truths, and then there's absolute truth. And there's not a lot of absolute truth on this planet, because it is, it's the ultimate truth. And a lot of that we haven't even earned to know. We're living in just this fractal, of reality, and of truth. And there's so much distortion, of the truth here, more than anywhere in the cosmos. And the game that's being played is the game of perception.
Yeah.
That is the game being played. Ultimately, it is the game of perception. And if you can control people's perception, you literally control the world. And this is the reason why, because it ties into the laws of the universe. Yeah. So for instance, like, I think even the whole COVID stuff, and, I'm not going to get into the whole COVID stuff, but I will say that COVID's not the enemy. I said COVID's real. COVID is real. Okay. The pandemic is fake. Okay, so a lot, and what's the real enemy here is really the media. The media has so much power, literally, and the reason is because they control the perception. Why is the entertainment industry so powerful? Why is Hollywood so powerful? Because Hollywood is the epicenter where they have their hands on the control knob for the perception of the world. And when you can control the perception, you control the world. Now, when I was talking about how it ties into universal law, this is where it gets really, really tricky and very manipulative. Because if you understand the law of attraction, right? Your thoughts, your visualizations, attract whatever it is that you're thinking, you're visualizing, and you're feeling. Well, in order to, see something, you start thinking it. Then in emotions, you see it on TV, you start feeling it. You're attracting that. So what happens is when the news media, what I learned about the news media is that the news don't report the news, they create the news.
Yeah.
So what they do is, they don't call them television programs for no reason, right? They're literally programming us. And what they're doing is they're taking their message, their narrative, their perception, right? And they're projecting it into the consciousness of mankind. And by doing that, we acknowledge it, we accept it, we start thinking it, we're visualizing it because we're watching it, and then emotionally we're humans, so we get emotionally attached, and we start to believe that's the perception of the world, that is the reality, and now we begin manifesting that reality. So they project it and use our powers, unbeknownst to us, to co-create their version of reality.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets really, really tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many layers there that I'm so excited to uncover in the show. Something I love that you said earlier is as your truth changes, right? One, to respect people's truths, and then to understand that truth will change, and that's okay. And it's like a never-ending process of evolving and new understandings, new enlightenments, new growth. For someone listening that has a really hard time respecting someone else's truth because it feels so visceral and real to them in whatever truth they have now, what would you say to help someone pull back that lens a little bit, pull back that perspective? How can they start the process of awakening, I guess, to understanding that truth is ever, maybe these kind of truths are ever changing?
I think the issue is, it's hard. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
It is hard because, when I first started with, when my book first came out, for some reason I was attracting these like born again Christians, and they are like spiritual warriors. Like they will fight you tooth and nail. And I wasn't there to fight, but I wanted them to like see like this awakening and whatnot. I realized that was a battle that wasn't conducive to, who I wanted to be and, what I wanted to represent. And I think part of it is like, they want you to see their beliefs and you want them to see your beliefs. When you got two people wanting to see each other's beliefs, you're not really accepting that that's their truth because both people think they're right. It's a never-ending, non-winning debate. You can't win, especially when it's steeped and rooted, into the core of your identity. And whenever you start, sharing or debating truths that are tied to your identity, people will fight to the death. And I'm not just saying that. If you look at all these religions that, had indifferences, they actually went to war and killed each other over indifferences. Godly people, so-called godly people, would kill each other for disagreements about who and what God is, which is the most ironic, hypocritical thing, that I can imagine. So, I think for me personally, it was a practice that, I'm not here to change anyone. And when I adopted that belief, I said, I'm here to plant seeds. I'm not here for them to say, oh my God, Kurtis, like, you are right, I'm so wrong. Like, they were never going to say that anyway. So once I was realizing, like, hey, I'm sowing seeds, I'm just, sharing my perspective, then I stopped attracting, all those kind of debates and whatnot. And I found a way to really, have compassion for, people's journey, because my journey was the same. There's some stupid things that I believe that I don't believe now, and that goes for everybody here. And I'm not just talking about, spiritual beliefs. I'm talking about, beliefs in relationships, beliefs about, self, beliefs in business, all these crazy beliefs. I'm like, I can't, there was actually one point, guys, and I'm so embarrassed to say that I shouldn't even be saying this.
I love it already.
I don't think I fully healed from this. There was one point, oh my God, it's the egomania. I believed I did not have to read any books. Because I'm like, what do these people know? I was like, I'm going to wait till I write my book. Now, this, I'm talking like 15, 18 years ago when I was thinking this. I was probably 14 years old. And I was like, and it was the most stupidest belief that I could ever have. I truly think I did not have to read any books. Are like the number one thing that's completely transformed me. And I'm like, wow, how did I even come to that conclusion? And, so it's evolving, man, just evolving and growing.
Yeah, I love that. Compassion.
Yes.
Well, I think it's so important too that along all of our journeys to realizing our truth and evolving in that manner, I think what comes to my mind is one thing that you mentioned in your book, The Great Awakening, or Awakening, is Plato's The Allegory of the Cave. And I really love that because it's a great kind of analogy of what we're talking about. So for if for those listening, if you can kind of maybe remind them as to what one, maybe what the allegory of the cave is, and two, I feel like when you do, well, I'll just start there because where I want to take people is we're all gonna eventually, if we stop just listening to everyone in our life, whether that's the media, the doctor, a family member, a friend, a book, just actually thinking for ourselves and experiencing for ourselves and questioning things for ourselves, then, we're here on this earth, why not do that ourselves? And I think once we do, we want to share that because oh my gosh, this is what I experienced. And so given that, I think it's kind of maybe perfect to kick off with maybe a reminder for those listening of the allegory of the cave, and then maybe seeing what kind of unfolds there.
Yeah, so, pretty much, the allegory of the cave is that, we're in one setting. And, we're in that one setting and we believe, there's these people in the cave, they're prisoners and they're in the dark and, there's flames flickering and they see these shadows and they think that's it, that's all reality until, one person escapes, from the cave and they look out and they see there's actual sunlight and there's trees and there's a whole nother world and universe. And then when you kind of, go back to share this amazing information, these people reject what you have to say and they think you're crazy. What are you talking about? They can't even visualize that reality, that truth, because all they've experienced was darkness, and shadows. And it's very metaphorical because, many of us we're living in the shadows. We're not standing in the light, which I look at light as truth, as information. Light is information. So, we're all in our bubble. We are just all in our bubble. And there is so much more to this world than you can even fathom. I mean, it is mind-boggling how deep the rabbit hole goes. Mm-hmm. And one of the books, one of the things I say in my book is that one of the things I learned is that the most powerful, impactful statement that I learned is that everything that I thought was real in this world is fake. And everything I thought was fake in this world is real. Mm-hmm. Now talk about living in an upside down world. Now you might be thinking, well, what's he talking about? Well, money, the concept of money, people have no idea what money is. It is fake. It is fiat currency. It is made up. It is a concept. That's all it is. It is a concept. We're not backed by gold no more. They're just printing this stuff. It's a concept in our mind of what money truly is. The American dream, right? That's not real. They created that. So it's the best marketing plan ever. Yeah. So all these things, politics. Come on now. If anyone realized the games being played in politics now, it's it's charades. The left wing, right wing, they're both wings to the same bird.
Yeah.
You know? So, and then there's a lot of cool, mystical stuff, that I've learned, like magic is real.
Yeah.
Magic is truly real. Your ability to, manifest things that never existed out of thin air. We have that innate ability, in power. You guys know my Instagram handle's Man from the Stars.
Yeah.
And, learning the truth about extraterrestrials, to me, not with, I was reading, or watched some of the YouTube videos, is really, I went for like years and started doing due diligence on like, what's really going on? And most people have no clue. And the reason being is, there's still places in the country, many places, that believe Christopher Columbus discovered America. Like the guy had a map that already had it on it, and when he got there, people were already there. It's like, how in the world did we buy into that and actually teach it to our kids and be like, Christopher Columbus? It's like, really?
Yeah.
Wow, how gullible are we? History's written by the victors, and you look at our history books, go look at China's history books, go look at Germany. It's going to be completely different history books.
Yeah.
But we're in our own cave. We're in our own reality, and so forget about U.S. history or world history. What about galactic history? Mm-hmm. How did this all get started? Like, those are the things that fascinate me. So, not to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but once you start to awaken, seriously, there's not a boring day in my life ever since I awakened. Now, it was very topsy-turvy. Yeah. It was really, it wasn't peaches and cream. It was some dark places that I had to go through, and it was just part of the journey. But now, where I'm at now, I knowing that anything is possible, and that magic and miracles are around every corner, and we can create the reality that we want, not just individually but collectively, and we're reaching the space we're going to be able to do that collectively. It's just that individually we have to go through our own experiences to get to the space where, like, okay, I know my power. And that's like, you guys read the book. The first 9-10 chapters of my book is showing people, here's your power. And then afterwards, like, okay, now that you know your powers, here's how you use them. And then it goes really deep, and it's like, now here's why they've been hidden from you.
Yeah.
There's $3 billion spent per day to keep you asleep. And, I don't know about you, but if someone's spending $3 billion a day to imprison my consciousness and keep me asleep, I want to know what they're trying to hide from me.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Well, I just think it's exactly that. Like, people may say, oh, another conspiracy theorist, oh, whatever, you're left, or oh, you're right, I'm not going to listen. It's not a matter of anything. We're all part of the same bird, like you talked about. And it's just a matter of, like, you don't know it until you know it. Like, if you haven't read XYZ books over here or ABC books over here, then how will you know? And it's like, okay, let's both read the 10 books and then see where we're at. Let's go read over here and look at the 12 documentaries over here, and let's have the same, then we're on the same kind of, level. And I think a lot of people you don't know until you read it. And I think that's where a lot of people are. They're just kind of stuck in that.
And you, speaking of that, right? I think you talk in your book about both the power of the mind or the power of consciousness in both a positive and negative way, right? So it works both, either which way you focus it. And you talk about a story where, as a young kid, you faked getting sick. And then, because you wanted to get away from school, and then because you faked so hard getting sick, you actually created feeling terrible and actually getting sick. Something that I did often as a kid, because I grew up with so much stress and anxiety and fear, that I've learned that if I could literally make myself sick as a way out of dealing with the stressors of life. And what was so interesting is that sometimes I was faking it, but often I actually got sick because of it. And so I definitely want you to speak more into that, because I think people almost understand things in a way where if I can do it if I can create illness and sickness in my body, what could I create on the other perspective, and how powerful that really is?
Yeah, I was so sick that day. Can I just say, like, I was young too, so I learned my lesson. I didn't know about the law of attraction then, but my God, I was like, because I knew I was fine. I was just trying to, play hooky. And we truly do have that power. And even I think the most recent realization of that same lesson came along, being an entrepreneur and having so many things going on. I kept, everyone I talked to, like, how are you? I'm like, I'm busy. I'm so busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. And then, you keep saying that you're busy. You put that busy energy, which is like the opposite of, the results of meditation, right? If you're just constantly in busy. Now, everyone's busy, but is everyone productive? So I switched the narrative in my head from I'm busy. How was your day? Instead of saying busy, I said productive. Yeah. Very productive. And I was like, oh, wow, that little shift. I'm telling you guys, shift that. And it takes you out of that busy mindset. Now, manifesting, that is a great example, Rachel, of manifesting things we don't want. Because right in the book, The World is Yours, and talking about the law of attraction, majority of people sabotage their manifestations. And the reason why they sabotage their manifestations is I believe, two reasons. One, they're focusing on the wrong things. It's very simple. Where that attention goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, things grow. And that is how it works. We feed these things. So I think it was Socrates said the secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So, truly focusing on the things that you do want to happen, not the things you don't want to happen. Because the subconscious mind is a really tricky thing. It does not recognize the words no, not, and don't. So I said, right now, guys, don't think of a giraffe. It's like it automatically kind of goes in there. And when you say there, like, I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. You're actually manifesting that thing to happen because you're giving it energy. Mm-hmm. That's all. The universe is way more simpler than we can imagine. It doesn't look at these little words. It looks at the energy you're emitting. Okay, what are they doing? They keep saying this thing they don't want to happen. Now it doesn't recognize no, not, and don't. So it sees that thing. So thing's popping. And it's not looking at the words. Now what's the emotion? The emotion is fear, right? So the fear and that thing, you just manifested a fearful thing of that. And that's the problem, is that really getting out of the habit, of focusing on the things you don't want to happen and, reframing that and say, okay, what's the opposite? What I do want to happen, and focusing on that. That is the key. Now, trust me, it's super simple, right? But it's not easy. It's not easy because why? We're in that hypnotic rhythm, right? We're in that pool. We already created that momentum. That's how our brain's wired. So it's easy to think that way. And the sad truth is we're addicted to crappy thoughts. Literally addicted to crappy thoughts. So they did a study and they realized that 80% of the average human's thoughts are negative in nature. And 98% of our daily thoughts are the same thoughts we had the day before. So we're on a hamster wheel, recycling these crappy emotions and thoughts every single day, because the thoughts trigger the visualizations, trigger the emotions, and the emotions trigger more thoughts, and it's like blah, 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 blah. So, really being able to break through that. So that's the one thing, the focus. And the second reason people sabotage their manifestations is because they're holding on to old baggage. Things that no longer serve them. So this is where we talk about breathwork detox. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So in order to let in, you must first let go. Everybody wants all these things. We want all these things. We want. But we haven't cleared the way. We haven't cleared the space for those things to land in our life. So it's like an airplane, right? And if an airplane, wants to land, that runway needs to be clear. Or if it wants to take off, that runway needs to be clear. If there's something on the runway, what does the airplane have to do? It's circles. It's circles. It's circles. And that's why people feel like they're just running in circles. They're running in circles because you're holding on to junk that you haven't learned to let go of, to create the space and the clearing to accept the things that you want and you know you deserve. But you got to let go. And if you don't let go, be prepared to get dragged.
Yeah. I love that. I love that we're starting to even talk about breath. If you guys are just tuning in, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, where we're talking with Kurtis Lee Thomas about before letting things in, you need to let things out. And I think that's so fantastic. If you guys haven't checked out Kurtis Lee Thomas's Breathwork Detox, it's a must. Rachel and I have been doing Breathwork Detox or breathwork since we've known each other, but also some years prior. But I think the way that you guide and lead and just have this really divine, I feel like, experience when you're leading the breath work that just, makes, I think, anybody, any age, any sex, no matter anybody's walk of life, to have some transformations because there's so much that goes along with breath. And I think a lot of people, maybe even listening, don't really, when you talk about breath to just a stranger that may not know anything about breath, it's like, what are you talking about? It's just your breath. Like, what? I don't understand. But how profound it is, how you can talk about breath probably for an entire lifetime and still not scratch the surface to what breath really is. When you talk about the self, others, world around us, God, like the breath is so powerful. So for those listening, if you could kind of shatter, give a mind-blowing kind of realization to somebody, right? Because and I know that you can do that. It's like even like DMT in the lungs, whatever comes up. I feel like if you were talking to somebody right now and they're like, what are you talking about? It's just your breath. What maybe some key things you can bring up to them that would get them in the different circle that we talked about in the water?
Yeah. Welcome to my world.
Yeah, I know.
How do you even somebody that something they do every single day, so it's not nothing new.
Yeah.
It's something that they do every day is going to change their life.
Yeah.
So hard. And even the type of breathing that I teach, it's like trying to explain the power of breathwork or breathwork in general is like trying to explain a kaleidoscope to a blind person. It's virtually impossible. It's like, trying to convince someone like, hey man, come breathe with me. It's going to change your life. It's like saying, hey guys, come on this walk with me. This walk is going to change your life. Like, oh, come on. It's so hard. Yeah. And, breath work for me has been transformative, life-changing, life-saving. Now, mind you, you're talking to somebody who dedicated the past decade to finding the most profound healing modalities and, biohacks out there, and you can relate to this. I've been to the jungle 14 times and drank ayahuasca and every psychedelic you can imagine. I had, all these dots on me from combo, frog poison they put in you to, help detox the body and like all these crazy things that a lot of people don't hear of. And breath work, was the secret sauce. Like that was it. And we're all holding it. It's all here. And yes, and DMT is released. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like how does the breath transform your life so much if it's something we do every single day? Well, first of all, the type of breathing that we're doing is something that you've probably never done in your life. It's just deep diaphragmatic breathing, in through the mouth, out through the mouth, deep into the belly, deep into the chest. You've never done that. It's not hyperventilating. It's not like you ran 10 miles and it is not that. Right? It's a very specific form of breathing. And a couple things happen, but two major things happen. And when you start this breathing, you begin to clear out energetic channels in the body, the pranic channels. And these pranic channels are sometimes called meridians, nadis, Okay, so if I was to explain this to someone who has no idea what the heck I'm talking about, I would say, okay, well, we have blood in our body, right? Everyone knows that. And how is blood distributed through the body, right? It's distributed through veins, right? So veins and arteries, and you can get blood clots. We know people die of blood clots, okay? So keep that as the context. Now, we can all agree that there's energy in our body. I don't care if you're in the US and you call it, energy or chi or prana. There is a vital life force energy that flows through us. Mm-hmm. And how does that energy get distributed through the body? Through pranic channels, right, called meridians and nadis. So this breathing technique, there's a few of them, this is the most powerful one, is one of the only things you can do that cleanses these pranic channels. Because when you get like a blood clot, an energy clot, right, that is what people call, I have a block. I don't know, I can't manifest this, I have a block. Mm-hmm. That is the block. And that's an emotional block, because emotion is energy in motion, right? And when that motion is stopped and blocked, it gets clogged in your energetic system, right? And it stays there. Now, that can be through a situation that happened. It could be through a breakup. It can be through getting your feelings hurt. Something that just with the energy where it's like, right? Mm-hmm. So it's actually the cause for people getting on your nerves, right? So if somebody just kind of like, when they say you got on my nerves, it's actually that energetic blockage in your pranic channel where someone just irritates you, the thought of them and whatnot. So this breathing technique clears that path out. And this is the reason why, you were there, Emilio, there was a room full of, 60 alpha males. High achieving males in this event that I did. And probably 80-90% of them were bawling in tears. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because you start to cleanse out those channels, those things you've been holding on to for eons. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, so think of the mind like this. The mind tends to think in the future. The body holds on to the past, right? The soul and the spirit wants to always be present. That is its nature. So when we hold on to things, we realize the issues are in the tissues. So we actually store this stuff in our bodies, all this emotions, we store it in certain parts of the bodies, and that can actually manifest into physical ailments. Mm-hmm. So when you do this breathing technique, you're clearing out all that emotional baggage and junk that's blocking your manifestations, that's causing you stress, anxiety, depression. And I tell people, listen, sometimes, the weight you need to lose, isn't on your physical body. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's in your energetic body. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not the weight of the baggage, but how you carry it. And a lot of single mothers, a lot of, alpha males who have to provide for, for their families, or, they learn to be tough. And they store this stuff. They store this stuff because they have to keep going. They have to be strong, and they don't have the emotional capacity to process those emotions and still provide for their family or their children. So we store, but the world is so crazy that it compounds, and to the point we have a nervous breakdown, or we start having anxiety attacks, or we have, severe depression, and we have to get on pills, which was my case. And, so I'm here to save people from that reality. And it's a lot easier to alleviate yourself of those, because, I was taking this specific drug. It's a drug, actually. The doctors prescribed me for anxiety, and I was tripling the dose because I was having panic attacks. And this doctor taught me a breathing exercise she told me to do that would help get me off of those pills. And I did it. I did the breathing exercise, and it completely eradicated the panic attacks. And I was so shocked. Like, I was mind boggled. I'm like, how? And I'm taking triple the dose here. And she taught me this one stupid breathing exercise. And I never took one of those pills again. And I'll tell people, the breath works faster than any pill or food that you could have as opposed to, helping heal the body. Because when I was having panic attacks, they were immediate, and I was taking, 3 of these pills, and I mean, it takes 20 minutes to get into your stomach, and then it takes some time to get in your bloodstream. But it was in my brain that I was like, okay, I feel safe, because that's what panic attacks come from. Like anxiety, panic attacks is about fear of the future. A lot of depression comes from the past. So, knowing that and working with yourself and, some stoic philosophy really helps. So emotions. Let me. It's very deep with breathwork. Now let's go into the fun part, which is DMT.
Well, right before you go into DMT, Kurtis, I wanted to just say too, like for those listening, like even a simple kind of like to make this real for everything that we're talking about, or really just to practice it together, is like when you had said like, hey, look, this breath was literally more powerful than these 3 pills or whatever. Someone could be listening and it's like kind of slowing down, right? And saying like, those listening, what were your thoughts when Kurtis said that? Right? Being mindful of your thoughts right now. So like everything he's saying, what are your thoughts right now? Because I think when we talked about kind of the essence of the show, perception, as we started this, it's like, well, and you talk about this in your book, right? It's not that seeing is believing. It's more of the flip side of believing is seeing. And so it's like, what did you believe what Kurtis said? Or what did you believe during the past 5 minutes of what Kurtis was saying? And I think it's important to always check ourselves, like, because it could be in our subconscious or unconscious, like, hey, are we mindful and conscious of like what I really was thinking when Kurtis was saying these things, or what we're saying? And so I think like just kind of also before we go on, like checking all of ourselves to really think about these things. And love, it seems like you wanted to.
No, yeah, and more so why, what did you believe, and then why did you believe it? Is it because, like we talked about earlier on the show, just because you've been programmed so much with this other side of the story, and if you've seen the show The Matrix, the red pill or the blue pill, which one are you going to take? And what I think it's just like outcomes, like what do we really want our lives to be like? Do we want to stay stuck on the hamster wheel, or are we actually really open to change and to different? And I think it's so easy, myself included. I did this for a while. I was like, breath work, like that's not going to do anything for me. Like I need to go, do a workout, or I need to go, I don't know, I need to go journal, or I need to do something else. And I wasn't as open as I could have been. But the second I actually did a real breathwork class, I mean, I had one of the most profound healing experiences of my life. And I know for a fact that my gut health issues that I had for so long, gut health issues that messed up my digestion, which messed up my mental health, which messed up my emotional health, all of those things were exactly what you talked about. Past traumatic things that I went through as a child that I was holding on to, that put my body in a constant fight or flight, so I could never really digest my food. I could never really recover or heal. And in a real breathwork session, again, this is not just like, okay, I take a couple deep breaths, but like a real hour-long breathwork session, and being consistent with that, my digestion, my gut health, my mental health, my emotional health, I just felt this freedom, this peace that I hadn't felt before, that I had been looking for in pills or doctors or these things that I thought someone was going to give me. And so, just making it really raw and real here, I think it's just how bad do I really want to heal? Like, how open am I really? Because if you write this off, then you're not really open to what could be. And so definitely I want you to continue with the DMT, and I just really wanted people to hear that. Well, also too, what's coming up real quick right before you go into DMT, and for those listening, you're tuning in to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, but I think you talk about this, how it's called breath work for a reason, and it really is work. But even how, like, I wanted to bring this up right before you dive in, is because, there's friends, let's say, that I've been talking for years about to do breath, and they're trying to change their life. They could be blocked, they could be self-sabotaging, whatever it is that they're going through, and they still have not tried to breathe, right? To like take 1 hour of their day, their week, their month, their year to breathe. And I think you had brought it up maybe when we were at the retreat, but it's like that maybe the subconscious mind or the conscious mind, their old self doesn't want to die, doesn't want to, like, they knows it's going to change. Can you speak a little bit about that right before we dive deeper with the DMT?
Yeah, so even before that, I can't tell you how happy I am that you paused at that moment so people could reflect, how do you feel about what he said? Because if I'm being totally honest, if I was receiving this information on the other end, in the space that I was in when I was going through it, I would not believe me. I would not. And I think some of the reason is because people try so many different things. You buy, how many supplements I have in my cabinet right now? I don't know if they work. I'm spending like $600 in supplements. I have no idea. I'm just like, it's not fixing the issue. And Rachel, my stomach issues, that's how I got into breath work. For 5 years, I had this mysterious illness. And I had endoscopies, I had colonoscopies, I swallowed 2 pill cameras, and I did every test you could imagine, and doctors couldn't diagnose what was wrong with me, and I was still suffering. And then it wasn't until 5 years later I did my first breath work. And after I go home that night, first of all, I floated home because I felt so good. And I wake up the next day and my stomach pain was gone. And I was sitting there just, flabbergasted of like, how is this possible? And then it just hit me. The reason why these doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me is because my issue wasn't physical. It was energetic. It was emotional. And this is the time we're entering where, Western medicine needs to meet Eastern medicine. Because don't get me wrong, if I break a limb, give me some morphine or some painkillers, I'm not going to do everything, a meditation or the breath.
Right.
But it has to be a marriage between the two, because a lot of the people, the practitioners in Western medicine don't understand pranic channels, and, these type of things that we're talking about. So, I would not believe myself. So I have compassion for that. And all I can say is, it's worth a shot. Try it, because the great thing about breath work, unlike a lot of things out there, these $600 I'm spending a month in supplements, is that the results are immediate and undeniable. So one breath work session, you will say, holy cow, like now I know what they're talking about. So I think what you were talking about was were you talking about the fear of the resistance of why people are apprehensive to breathe?
I think with anything in life, really. But since we're talking about breath, it's like if people may have heard about breath a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, and have still not tried to spend an hour doing some really deep breathing, whatever it may be. And I think there's a reason why, and at least at the surface level, maybe kind of tapping into that as to why that is.
Well, I guess the first thing I'd say is, which breathing technique? Because people can say, I listened to this podcast and they told me to breathe for an hour, and I sat there and I breathed and nothing happened. And I think it's really important that at least for your first time, go to an event, whether it's physical or virtual, and be guided step by step of the way the entire time. And so you're trained, okay, this is how we're going to be breathing today, and that person's there to guide you. And then you have the motivational music, and they're bringing you through this journey. And now you know that they're doing the right breath work,
right?
Because there's alternate nose breathing. You do that for an hour, you'll feel calm, but it didn't change your life. A lot of these things have to be consistent. And that's the thing about, meditation. Is that, meditation gives compounded results. So you need to be very, very consistent in order to see those results. And they're very subtle. And, I personally believe meditation is an advanced practice. Someone who's extremely stressed out, you got all these things going on, busy, whether you're an executive or whether you're a single mother, if you tell them to sit down, sit still, and just think one thought for the next 20 minutes, they're going to go more crazy and insane trying to do that. And they're going to feel like a failure when it doesn't work. And they're not going to be consistent and stay with it because they're not getting the results that they need. So the difference between breath work and meditation is like, first of all, breath work is like meditation on steroids. And, we're trying to clean our car here, right? So look at breath work as cleaning your car with a power washer. Right? It is the deep clean that gets out all the crud and the grud and all that junk. And the meditation is the maintenance, right? So it's like you're cleaning the car with the toothbrush. That's the fine tuning. If that car's filthy clean, you are not going to get anywhere cleaning with the toothbrush. So,
I like that.
You know, have the breath work, you know, be, you know, the core of your practice, and then have the meditation just simply be the maintenance. And if you do that, you're going to notice that meditation is so much easier once you get all that stuff that's been lingering in your energy field for God knows how long. You start clearing that stuff out, you get a tremendous amount of clarity, which we'll get to that in a second, which is the other amazing thing that breathwork does. And it makes it more enjoyable. You're going to have better meditations. It's going to be more enjoyable. You're going to feel better. So, and I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll just hit on why people during breathwork have these insane epiphanies, realizations. I can't tell you the amount of testimonials I have from people who, you know, quit their job and switch their careers and, you know, ask their fiance, their girlfriend to marry them, and like all these like really, really bold moves is because people get stuck in that hypnotic rhythm, right? And it takes something extremely powerful to crack, you know, that rhythm, right? And the reason why people have these epiphanies and realizations during breathwork is because something scientifically happens during the breathwork practice. And right around, let's say, the 8-minute to 12-minute mark, 8-minute to 12-minute, something amazing happens called Transient Hypofrontality. Now, what the heck is that? It's a fancy word for flow state. So in Transient Hypofrontality, what happens is the prefrontal cortex of the brain begins to quiet down. Now, why is that important? Because that's the part of the brain that never quiets down. It's the part of the brain that says, I'm me, you're you, this is good, this is bad. It's the monkey mind, it's the critic, it's the ego. And when that begins to quiet down and you all of a sudden pop through into what I call the quantum field, where it's stillness, it's quiet, and in this space, people are able to, I've seen people connect to their loved ones, people who passed away. I have people get, life-changing epiphanies in this state. It's the space where everything and nothing exists. It's the void. And this is the place of ultimate manifestation potential. You go into the space without that monkey mind at it, and you see what crystal clarity. And you just see all the answers to the questions that you have. And I feel like in where we're at now in life, many people are on the journey. And on this journey, many of us have more questions than we do answers. So when you're able to find a way that gives you answers that you seek, without having to go to, a psychic or a spirit medium. And this is the reason why me personally, as a breathwork teacher and facilitator, why I do breath work every single day is because of the messages and the clarity that I get in my every single waking day. Mm-hmm. For me in the beginning, it was the healing. Like, I was crying, I was, releasing, because all crying is a huge emotional release. It's more difficult for men because they think that's connected to their masculinity and macho-ness, when it's actually the opposite.
It's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit, man. It's like, you look at the most powerful beings in the entire universe, it's the ones who are androgynous, the ones who possess the male and feminine aspects. And even in our world right now, if you look at some macho men who I believe mastered masculine and feminine, Joe Rogan's one of them. Mm-hmm. Joe Rogan's a man's man, right? But he is very in tune with his feminine side. And he embodies that. And he has the #1 podcast in the world. And he has a group of alpha men, that are attracted to him. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at, rap, I grew up in the rap era. Mm-hmm. I think the person that mastered this masculine feminine is probably the most respected gangster rapper in the world, which is Tupac Shakur.
Tupac. Yeah.
So Tupac was the only rapper to this day that could make a rap song that'd make you feel like the biggest gangsta thug, like you want to go out and buy a Mac 10, bully, whatever it is. And then the very next song would dedicate a song to, you know, the divine feminine, and it make you want to call your mom and say how much you love her, and you know, he's respecting women. Like, and Tupac has a documentary. He's crying on the documentary. He's in a ballet toupee or whatever you call those things. You know, what are they called? The little the ballerina things.
Little tutu.
A tutu. Yeah, like, you know, and he mastered that. So, you know, being able to really embody the masculine and feminine. So, men, listen, it's okay to cry. I cried my ass off, you know, for quite a few months, and that got out all the physical ailments, and it really had me step into my vitality and my power. And now I just do it for clarity, because there's nothing out there that can give you clarity like it.
Yeah, seriously. And I really want to dive into this concept of resistance, right? Anything, whether it's a breathwork session or, you know, making the call you need to make, or being honest in your relationships and or in life in general. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, because there's a quote that we say often, you know, like whatever you resist persists, and to expect resistance, you know, especially when going into something that you know is going to be, you know, life-changing or elevating. Why do you think it is that we have that resistance, and how can people break through it?
Yes, what you resist persists. What you fight, you ignite. You know, it's like what I realized about resistance is that, oh man, this is such a good one. Suffering. Many people are suffering, right? Internally suffering. Like, I remember one point in my life where, you know, externally everything was good. You know, I had a good job, I had a nice car, I had a good house, things were right with the family, but yet I was miserable. And I wasn't sad. Yeah, I didn't break up with my girlfriend, none of that, but I was miserable in it, and it was because I had internal conflict inside of me of my own beliefs. You know, and things I should do, things I'm not doing that I know I should do, and this belief contradicting this belief, and, you know, I'm spiritual now. Can I still have a drink of alcohol? No, you know. Oh, like, I'm spiritual now. You know, can I still have, you know, sex with women, or do I have to get married? Like, all these crazy things going in my head, and all this inner conflict. And I believe suffering comes from inner conflict, and inner conflict comes from, you know, resistance. And, you know, sometimes leaning into that resistance, you know, very similar. You guys familiar with those, what do you call those Chinese finger traps?
Yeah.
You try to pull and pull and pull, you're not getting anywhere. But if you lean into it and push into it and meet it and see what that resistance is, and then whoop, it comes off. Yeah. You know, or a viper, snake bites you, right? It's designed that if you try to pull away, right, it sinks in even deeper because the teeth are angled this way. But if you push your hand into it and lean into the bite, it lets go because you go with it. So for me, you know, leaning into that, you know, resistance is the best thing. So that's my overall, you know, belief on it, you know, and that is really, this is such a hard topic to explain because, you know, it leads into like doing and being. Ah, man, those terms piss me off so much on this spiritual journey. It's like people are like, you know, entrepreneurs, you want what you want, you gotta get what you want. You gotta hustle, you gotta grind. 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And it's like, Jesus Christ, you know? And, you know, partially that is true, very much true. Now, then you get into spiritual, it's like, no, you just have to be. Yeah. You know, stop chasing everything and let things come to you. Be the magnet. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, having the birds just come and like land on your shoulder. It's like, come on, you know? And there's some truth to that. Yeah. Truth to both of them, and you can have a forever battle trying to figure that out. But ultimately, that to me is the purpose of life. That is the yin and yang. Mm-hmm. That is the balance. That is the flow. And part of the flow is to know when you got to do and when you got to be. You know, and if you learn how to when to do and when to be, then you're able to, you know, keep your main space into a place of neutrality, And that's where I try to be, is a place of neutrality. Try not to be reactive, try not to be attached to anything, whether it's, emotions or materialistic things. And, standing in that place of neutrality is, resistance can't harm you at that point. That is like, realizing that you truly have the power and ability to be the eye of the storm. No matter what crazy things are going on around you, if you look at the eye of a storm, it's peaceful, it's serene. And when you really begin to step into your power, you realize that you can actually calm the storm.
Mm-hmm. Which is what we want for all of our listeners. And I'm so glad that you're here with us. We're going to be diving into rapid fire questions right before we continue our conversation.
Yes.
And just kind of letting go and letting God guide us in all the direction that we need to go to in this conversation. So without further ado, if you guys are just tuning in, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. And we're talking to Kurtis Lee Thomas. Rapid fire questions. Babe, why don't you take the first one away real quick?
Awesome. Okay, so rapid fire. Again, these are just like questions that we have off the top of our head. He doesn't know these questions, and just, try to answer as fast as you can. Okay, so my first question, I love asking because I love just the concept of heroes and people being the hero of their own life story. So if you could have any superpower what would you want to have and why?
Teleportation. It's better than flying. You can just instantly appear. You can, be any place in the world at any given time.
Yeah.
And I watched the movie Jumpers. It was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
That was cool, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to teleport before Jumpers. And I'd have to say teleportation.
You snapped into that right away, man. You're about to manifest this pretty shortly, man. I hope so that we can have a good time together. I love it. All right, second rapid fire question. Out of all the elements out there, which one would you choose?Ch is your favorite and why?
Elements meaning what?
Like earth, wind, fire, water.
Okay, man, I all of them just popped up in my head because, I want to say water because there is, I don't know, I just think of like water and beaches and, it's just very, it does something for me. It's kind of like that je ne sais quoi, just water in general. However, like fire and sun makes me happy. Like when the sun just hits me on my face, I kid you not, my dopamine, my serotonin levels, like I literally get happy when the sun hits me. So like that fire element like brings me true joy. I'm an earth sign, so I'm a Capricorn, so I feel like I already have that, so I'm probably taking that for granted. And I can't remember what the other one is, so obviously that's not the one.
I love it.
I absolutely resonate with both of those. So another rapid fire question is, what was one of your favorite childhood experiences?
First thing that came to my mind was I was obsessed with hitting a home run in Little League. And like it was like connected to like my identity, my joy, my fulfillment, my purpose, like everything. I was like, I need to hit a home run. Like I just need to do it. If I didn't do it, like I was a nobody. Like God knows what would have happened to me. So the season was ending and I was about to be out of Little League. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm not gonna hit a home run. Like I'm like trying to figure out which bridge I have to jump off of. Like this was like the most devastating thing for me. And it was a Saturday morning and we were down, I forget, we were down like, 2 or 3, whatever. Boom! I hit a home run and I tie the game. And mind you, I'm floating on cloud 9 and I get up actually the next inning and I think it was an over inning, whatever. And I got up a second time, I hit a second home run. And I won the game. Nice. And man, that memory right there, hitting 2 home runs in one game was like, it was everything for me.
That's so cool.
That's freaking awesome, man. Rapid fire number 4 is if you're about to veg out and watch a movie, documentary, or something, whether it's with yourself or with some friends, what's the ideal meal that you're about to prepare for yourself?
Ooh, man. I'll tell you the thing that I just saw in my head that I might have to go after this, but for some reason, and I don't even eat this. This is strange, but it's the dip, like the celery and the carrots and the dip. I don't know. I just saw that. I don't.
I
don't know.
You're craving it. I guess
I'm craving it now. But yeah, that would be it. My diet is a very sensitive thing because it's always changing, and there's a lot of guilt around eating things that you shouldn't be eating, like the Girl Scout quick cookies I ate the other day. I'm so mad. I only bought them to support the little girl. I ate the whole damn row, man. I'm so mad at myself.
Oh, I love that. That's when that compassion comes in, though, You gotta live a little.
Yours is a whole cookies. I'll eat the whole bag of chips, and it won't even be mine. It'll be Rachel's. I'm like, sorry, babe, I ate your chips.
So awesome. Well, that was so much fun. Thank you so much for playing with us. And again, if you're just tuning in right now, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. Continuing on our deep dive into breath work, into awakening, into consciousness. If someone's listening right now and they are either going through a really hard heartbreak, or they feel like they're like, gosh, I keep sabotaging. I really want this. I want to find my dream partner, or I'm even in a relationship and I just feel like we're constantly arguing and it just feels hard. And we're stuck in our perceptions, of like wanting to be right. What advice would you give to someone who's in that space right now?
I would say, from just everything that I've learned in personal development, is that I noticed a lot of people, it's not just women, but a lot of people will keep changing their partners to avoid changing themselves. And I think instead of just, trying to look for the next partner who's better than your ex, work on, making a better version of yourself. And then that person who comes into your life, will be that better partner that will match your vibration. Because not only does your vibe attract your tribe, but wherever you're vibrationally at that particular time, you're going to attract, someone very similar. And then you guys teach each other, those lessons. And, you have soulmates and twin flames and all these cool buzzwords. And they are real things. And the difference between the two is that you have many soulmates. You just don't have one. So soulmates is just, you guys share the soul energy. You guys come from the same, place. And a twin flame is pretty much like your other half. There's only one of those people, So, I'd say going into the, relationship as your best self, I think that's all you can do. You know what I mean? And just support each other and make the decision from the beginning, if you're in that relationship to grow with one another. Because things are going to come up. It's going to get tough. But if you guys, set the intention in the beginning, like, hey, we're going to go through some ups and downs, I hope we learned our lessons. Yeah, and, let's grow together. You know what I mean? And, that person's going to be a light in your life. And those lights sometimes flash their essence in your dark shadows. Yeah. And that's okay.
I love it. One of the other things that I wanted to chat about today with our audience is, when we talk about our consciousness, like we've been talking about, but also like the collective consciousness here on planet Earth. And one of the things that you talked about in your book was the grid. And I say, like, without going too deep, but I guess even in mentioning the grid, we're going deep here. But I just think it's important because, one part of Relationship Renegades is not only our connection to ourselves, others, the world around us, but to God, source, universe, whatever you guys want to call it, this higher force. And, we always say that we're in this together or we're connected. And for those that maybe not understand, like, what do you mean we're connected, right? And, so whether it's talking about the grid, whatever comes up for you, Kurtis. So whether it's talking about the grid and or you mentioned, let's say, the 100 monkey experiment thing in the book. Can you talk a little bit about either one of those or both of those, and really how this connection has, as we're all one, I think that will kind of help exemplify that for our audience?
Yeah, I guess start with the 100th monkey study, because I think it's a great segue into it. So they did this study, in Japan. It was like a 30-year study, and they took these sweet potatoes and they would drop them in the sand for the monkeys. And they eat them, and monkeys are very intelligent. And just like us, if you go to the beach and you drop your apple in the sand, and even if you try to wipe it with your shirt, you eat that and you bite down on that little one piece of sand. It's like the most irky feeling. Well, the monkeys didn't like that either, so they get these in the sand and they bite it, and they're spitting out all the sand or whatever. And then eventually, one of the monkeys, it was actually a younger monkey, took the sweet potato and washed it in the river, right? Washed it in the water, and then ate it and enjoyed it. So now he told his little monkey friends, right? And the younger ones, and then boom, they started doing it. And interestingly, the adults were actually the last ones to adapt it. The younger ones kind of did it first. And eventually, they did as well. And it got to a point where one day, one of the monkeys took the sweet potato, washed it in the water, and they call that the 100th monkey. Now, it wasn't literally the 100th monkey. It's just the name of the thing. But they call that the 100th monkey, and he represented something. He represented the tipping point, right? The critical mass. And what happened on that day when that 100th monkey washed the sweet potato in the water is that every single monkey, the old ones, the young ones, were washing the sweet potatoes in the water as well. But that's not the interesting thing that happened. The interesting thing is that the monkeys of the same species in adjacent islands where the study was not being done, they started washing their sweet potatoes off in the water on that same day.
Wow.
So what happened was they got the download, right, from the realizations from the collective of that particular species. So this is how, let's say, God, the creator, allows us to evolve. Every single species has its own collective consciousness. So we have our own individual consciousness and the things that we go through and grow through. And then as a human species, we have a collective consciousness, which is the collective sum of all of our realizations and thoughts and emotions. And that is how, from a higher perspective of, how entire races and civilizations are monitored, via their evolution. So now how does that, tie into we're all connected? Well, there's your proof.
Yeah.
And some people being like, well, how's that possible? They can't wrap their heads around it. Well, let me just break it down this way. We have one of these. And I don't know if this is going to be on video, but I'm holding up an iPhone. Yeah. Right? And on this iPhone, I have pretty much my entire life. I have all my thoughts. I took them from my head. They're in my notes. Yeah. I have all my meetings. I have my calendar. I have, all my music, all my text messages, my phone calls. Every number that I can't even remember anymore is now in this phone. And all that information is now stored and uploaded to something called the cloud. And it stays in the cloud. Now, Apple, what they do is, now this is everybody knows this now, how these companies, where the value in what they do is they take all this data that we have, right? And they data mine it, and they create profiles on us that's beyond belief of the profiles they have on us. And they now can buy and sell, this data. So it all gets uploaded, and it actually it gives them a good scope on the collective of everyone who has iPhones of like, hey, this is what everybody has been saving. This is what everyone has been texting. Oh, this is probably going to be the next hottest product. This is the stuff that they're doing. So now, if a Steve Jobs or whoever could make this device that could do these types of things, now what about God? What about source? I don't care who you think God is. What about the creator of humanity? Forget about the creator of the iPhone, right? What about the energy and entity that created the person who created that? What type of technology you think they have?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
At the very least, can we say it's the same technology? Can we say the very least?
Right,
okay?
right.
So
at the very least.
every single person who's walking this earth, I don't care if you're in India, I don't care if you're in LA or Utah, every single one of our thoughts, our emotions are uploaded to a database, right? And that collective of those thoughts and those realizations and emotions and all of our epiphanies, they're all uploaded, and this is how the evolution of the human species is monitored. From a spiritual perspective, there's no human, I'm talking about from a spiritual, perspective, this is how evolution works, right? Because time, think about it, time, people are like, oh, we evolve over time. We don't really evolve over time, right? It's consciousness that allows us to evolve. If anything, time is what makes us get old, gray, weak, and die. So time isn't responsible for our evolution. It's consciousness, right? It's the realizations. It's those collective realizations, those collective epiphanies. That hundredth monkeys are the tipping points that allow for new innovations to come in, and that's how it works.
Yes.
And it's almost like when we first started the year, I forgot where I got it, but it was like, resolutions are useless, but realizations are priceless. And I hope that people continue to have these realizations and aha moments and have this, state of wonder to be able to question everything, to continue to get higher levels of consciousness for these reasons. But it's almost like, it reminded me about Tony Robbins would do this, like in some concert, like in his conferences, he'll ask everybody, hey, has anybody ever thought they were never good enough or didn't have enough or thought they were better than, right? Like, or had imposter syndrome or whatever it was, everyone is raising their hand every single time, right? And he's like, where do you think that comes from? Like, why are we always like, if we're going on our day to day and we're having like a negative thought and maybe we get in that hamster wheel we're talking about, like, why do you think that is? Where do you think that comes from? Right, and it's like this collective consciousness that exists right now because of what we were talking about earlier, the narrative, the media, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, how does anybody listening? Maybe there's somebody driving on their car that is this 100th monkey that is a tipping point for the next level of where we're heading. And so, with that in mind, what would you tell that 100th monkey right now driving on the road?
I think it's very empowering when you realize that your individuality is part of a larger collective. And I think this is what every single great awakened teacher was trying to tell us, right? Is what Gandhi, right? Be the change you wish to see. Right? Lao Tzu, what did he say? He said, if you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate all the suffering in the world, then eliminate all that is dark and negative inside of yourself. Because truly the greatest gift that you have to give is that of your own self-transformation. Because when you transform yourself, it is a download for the entire collective, your ancestors, your galactic lineage. People have no idea that the changes they make in themselves, how it helps the next person. And even the awakening, right? We were talking about the awakening, if we're circling back. Every person that awakens makes it exponentially easier for the next person to awaken because you're creating that momentum. And then it's like the popcorn effect, right? It's like pop, 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 right? And then boom, it's like that's where we're at. And right now the popcorn's popping, baby. Like there's a lot of people waking up and having these realizations and like saying, you know what, this don't make sense, or they're starting to question everything and their awareness, and it is happening. We are in biblical times, and I'm extremely excited to be a part of this amazing shift that humanity is about to go through.
Yeah. On that topic, I just want to touch on real quick as we're about to wrap up the show here. Someone's listening and they have people in their life where they're like, oh, they're just going down the rabbit hole, or they're getting into conspiracy theories here. What do you say, or how can we help people understand or decipher someone who's because I do think there's maybe some people who go down rabbit holes that aren't full of maybe truth or are maybe conspiracies, but there's also a lot of things that actually have a lot of truth in them that necessarily aren't that. So how can you help people? How can we help people decipher what to listen to, who to trust, who to not trust, when there's so much noise on every side?
Yeah. My honest answer would be you can't. You know, you can't tell people who to trust or because that's how we got in this mess in the first place. Right? It's like, oh, you know, it's like, no, believe this. Like, see me, like I learned not to follow any particular person, but to follow information. So, for instance, like, I think the greatest thing someone can do for themselves is strengthen their discernment.
Yes.
And their and their intuition, because you know you can read a document of disinformation, and you know the best liars are the ones who tell the truth. So if you look into a document of disinformation, there is going to be sprinkles of the truth in there. And if you fine tune your discernment and be able to go in there and feel, you know, what's true and what's not, that is going to be your ultimate, you know, navigation. Because there's people that I followed who I absolutely loved and I became emotionally attached to that started to go down a different path. Now, I don't know what's going on in their personal life. They're human, you know, and I don't know where they started to get information from. So kind of just be detached and stay in that neutral place and listen to everything. And you know what? If it doesn't make sense at that point, time and space in your personal journey, don't throw it away. Just put it on the shelf. Put it on the shelf and revisit it another time, because another time it might make perfect sense. You know, so take it all in and question everything.
Before we wrap up, is there any last things that you'd like to maybe share with our audience, Kurtis, that maybe we didn't touch on today that you wanted to share?
I don't know, I just feel like the most recent thing you said is the most important because you just said it. And, you know, you said, hey, you know, if this person is, you know, they're realizing, they're seeing their shadows, they're seeing this, they're seeing, you know, their quote unquote faults, and they're, you know, seeing, you know, these, you know, automatic habits that I just have to pause and say, that's a good space to be in. Because that is a place of transformation. If you're able to see your junk, you know what I mean, and really shine light on those dark areas of yourself, you know, even if you haven't had that breakthrough, you applaud yourself, because the hardest part of the journey is being able to turn inward and look at your crap. So that is like the hardest part. So, and just so you know, like, think of it as like your consciousness, you know, is your awareness, and your awareness and consciousness is what dissolves those shadows. So as you're trying to figure out, like, how do I have this breakthrough? How do I, you know, do this? You know, you just held the torch up in a dark cave, and that light is shining and melting away. It's a little slower, you know, but it's melting away. So you are constantly in progress just by being aware of your junk. It is every single day, it is dissipating. It is melting away just by your awareness. Now, if you want to expedite that awareness and that change and that transformation and have a breakthrough, you know, that's when things like breath work come into play, you know. And unless you feel like going to the jungle for 7 days and drinking a gallon of ayahuasca, you know, I don't know anything more powerful out there than, you know, breathwork detox to help clear out, you know, all this junk. So, you know, in order to have a breakthrough, you got to break through.
Before we ask where we can find everybody, you know, guys, we're going to be doing a part 2, hopefully more with Kurtis over here. So we didn't get to break into our relationship renegade moment, as you guys know, or favorite finds, but if you're interested, tune in to where you can find Kurtis, but tune in for part 2 where we're going to dive a lot more deeper and get to know Kurtis a lot more. But where can people find you, my brother?
Yeah, so, and I forgot, I was like, oh my God, let me tell them that. So they can go to manfromthestars.com, or they can go to my Instagram, which I'm pretty active and I'm putting content out there as much as I can. And that's Man From The Stars. So go on to Instagram, Man From The Stars, and then you'll see my link tree. You'll have all these crazy links of all these things I got going on, but that'd be the easiest way.
Awesome. Well, you are such a light in this world. Thank you for everything that you're doing, everything you did for yourself to help yourself awaken, through all the ups and downs and roller coaster rides. Like, thank you for being so brave and courageous. And in doing so, helping so many other people around the world have these great awakenings. And I'm just so eternally grateful for this moment, for how you're showing up in right now and in everything. So thank you so much. So absolutely. Yeah. Stay tuned for the next episode of Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachele Brooke Smith.
And this is Emilio Palafox.
And we will see you next time.
Love you guys.